Elon was on Twitter again providing a bunch of Model 3 information, and I give you a tidbit of the week describing my experience using the Supercharger network on a long trip. This is Tesla Tidbits episode number 389 for April 9th, 2018. We lead the week off with a whole bunch of Model 3 info coming out of one chain of tweets. Twitter user @BVLedford asked, quote, "Can someone tell me when Tesla will make dual-motor Model 3, or any info at all about it other than sometime this year? My car has been sitting in the configuration for months waiting on it," end quote. Elon took the opportunity to respond, answering in two tweets, quote, "We need to achieve 5K a week with Model 3 before adding complexity that would inhibit production ramp, so probably July," end quote. Twitter user @RasmFrasm and then asked about when we could expect white seats, and Elon said that it would be, quote, "similar timing," end quote. @Monotron got in on the action then, bringing up an issue that actually I wasn't even aware of. Quote, "Hey, how come online reservations of Model 3 are getting priority over us line waiters?" End quote. Elon responded saying, quote, "Should just be due to your config not available yet. If not, let me know," end quote. Another user added on, further explaining the situation, and Elon said that he was, quote, "looking into it now," end quote. Not long after, he came back to the thread saying, quote, "We'll take corrective action immediately. Sorry about this," end quote. So, a rather productive string here, seeing that line waiters will properly receive their invites, and finding out that white seats and dual motor aren't going to be here until Tesla reaches 5,000 cars produced per week. The question is, will that target date at the end of June hold, or will it slip again? Lastly, this show, I'm firing a tidbit of the week at you right off the bat this week, courtesy of my own experience. If you've been following me on Twitter, you know that this past week I took a very long road trip from Ohio to Boston and back. Total trip ended up being just shy of 1,500 miles, and I learned a lot about Supercharger-enabled travel. Let's start first and foremost with the nav system's estimate of travel time. In short, it's nowhere near accurate, even though I had no traffic issues and no charge issues with waiting to charge or having to share charge at a full station. And not like it was a little off, we're talking about hours. Trip estimate had us arriving at around 10 o'clock p.m., and we reached our hotel at 12:30 a.m. The way back was similar, at least 2 hours difference. So yeah, don't rely on the nav system's estimate of when you'll arrive. Secondly, everything I'd ever heard about traveling the Supercharger network was about how you'll find plenty of amenities at each location. Not all stops are created equally. While you'll see the various icons representing what you'll find at the stop, these may very loosely be related to what you're expecting to find. A good example would be two stops I had where the food icon was listed, and the stop didn't have a restaurant nearby, only a grocery store. To be fair, the grocery stores had their own restaurants within, but being grocery stores, those restaurants closed earlier than you'd expect. However, that's where the bad news ends. The majority of the stops did indeed have plenty of said amenities, 3 of which were strip malls, which offered plenty to do, 1 was an actual mall, and others were conveniently located to reach the options listed on the nav system. I say all this to say, it's not all sunshine and kittens using the Supercharger network, and I didn't even run into any stations that were relatively full, which I know in bigger cities is a more common occurrence. But for the most part, it is indeed an enjoyable experience. Just know that there are some dents in the armor that you could encounter, and you should be aware of going into it. You can check out the full stories in the show description. While you're at it, please consider supporting the show financially through Patreon at patreon.com/Tesla Tidbits. Thanks very much to the super patrons supporting the show at the $10 plus level out there. They are John Waltower, Drew Schuyler, John Waller, Mark and Sarah Thomas, Ryan Scarborough, Lee Sweet, William Henry Crew III, Dorian Steve Guberman, Bruno Quindici, Joey Boots, Ralph and Cheryl Waterhouse, Adam Raymer Brown, Megawatt Photovoltaic Development, Todd Sullivan, Robert Healy, Mitch Long, and Zortec LED Canada. If you can't support with dollars, please be sure to show your love with positive reviews and subscriptions on YouTube, iTunes, and other services on the internet. Also, don't forget that Alexa skill that I've created. If you have an Amazon Echo in your household and you want to get a good dose of Tesla news each morning in your flash briefing, go look up that Alexa skill in the skills store. That's it for this one. If you have feedback for me, the best way to be heard is to tweet at Tesla Tidbits and use the hashtag AskTeslaTidbits if you'd like your question to be considered for the show. I'll see everyone back here again tomorrow. Until then, keep it charged and hit the road.